Let's move to Manish. If you can request you to share your initial comments on the market.
Yeah, so I want to start. Thank you, Sujay. So I want to start with the types of carbon credits which are available these days in the market and how few corporates are there here in India who are using the carbon offsets to make themselves either carbon neutral or to achieve zero targets. But majority, for the Indian offsets, what are all generated these days here in India, or not, in fact, these days, but for last you can say 7-8 years, we had observed like 95% of the carbon offsets used to get exported to the developed nations. So the whole world, you can say, is, as of now, since the Paris Agreement, Article 6, and the domestic carbon markets, regional carbon markets, international carbon markets at the compliance level may take some 1 to 3 years time to get their place in the market. So I was telling about the two types of market. One is the avoidance based carbon credits, and another one is the absorption based carbon credits. So absorption based carbon credits may be again be divided into two categories. One is the technology based carbon sequestration technology based credits, which are not very much feasible because the technology is not very much feasible these days, while the other category comes from the nature based solutions. So the nature based solutions is the pure you can say the future of the carbon markets in next 5 to 10 years time, because the nature based solution projects constitutes of the forestry based projects or agricultural based projects or mangrove based projects. And recently we had formed, since in the Southeast Asia this kind of momentum is having a low interest. So recently we had incorporated a joint venture company with Shell to develop more and more projects in India and nearby nations related to the nature-based solution. And another category comes is the avoidance-based. So during last 15 years, our region had majorly worked over the avoidance-based credits. So the credits which are coming from renewable energy projects or energy efficiency projects or mass transportation system projects like Delhi Metro is getting that such kind of benefit. So these are the two different categories, and as of now, avoidance based credits, the credits originated from India are varying. The broad range is in between $0.5 to $10, while the absorption-based credits are ranging in between $10 to $15. Although the absorption-based credits are not very much originated from India, but slowly in the near future, next 3 to 5 years time, we would be able to see majority of the credits may be generated from this segment. Then coming over the phases of industry, since we are into this industry from year 2007, we had gone through all the phases of ups and downs. You can say there are three different phases of the industry that we had gone through. One is starting from 1993, that means formation of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Thereafter, 1997, adaptation of Kyoto Protocol. After that, 2005, the adaptation of the carbon markets. You can say start of the carbon market was there, and then Vinod informed us about the 2012 dip of the carbon markets. Thereafter, 2015, world had gone through the observation of signing of Paris Agreement 2015-16, and now actually we are into the 2021-2022 market, where the Paris Agreement had already been started its implementation. COP26 was the most important COP after COP21. You can say that means adaptation of the Paris Agreement. Now afterwards, the whole carbon markets, as of now, it was rightly said, as of now, for last 8 years, only the voluntary market, whatever the credits originated from India were majorly consumed under the voluntary market, and now we would be able to see the new markets which are upcoming under Article 6.2, 6.4 of the Paris Agreement, and the domestic market is also upcoming under the leadership of Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Power. So they are about to get their powers under Energy Conservation Act 2001, while Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change will remain the nodal agency for the international communication in respect to the Government of India. Apart from that, now the environmental attributes, like these are the environmental attributes you can say, which are coming from the renewable projects, energy efficiency projects, or maybe absorption or avoidance based projects. So we can categorize the same into three different parts. Again, one is the virtual PPAs, which is getting quite famous. David had told us about the Singapore based organizations. They are looking to get into the virtual PPA sort of thing, where in different forms and formats, electricity may be sold to the local company or maybe to the power exchange, and then environmental attributes may be then transferred to the buyer. Again, then the carbon credits, which is around 15-16-year-old industry, and apart from that, the IREX, International Renewable Certificates, or Indian Renewable Certificates, or we can call them as GOs, Guarantee of Origins, which is a majority time we call them at the European Union, and TIGER and other similar commodities are there. So there are 3-4 different environmental commodities, forms and formats are there, and again, various programs are there like CDM, VCS, Gold Standard, GCC, IREC, TIGER, and they had given the different terms and terminologies for a single carbon credit, which is again 1 ton CO2. So at last, I want to comment over the challenges related to the present present scenario and the future carbon market. Since during last 7-8 years, there were not much traction about the carbon markets globally, not only in India. And so the new fresh manpower to execute the projects, to understand the carbon market, to understand the climate change issues, or getting the registration verification processes. So this is the non-availability of the trained manpower is the major issue that our industry is facing about, since we are into the consulting domain. Our industry is also facing the same. Then the third-party inspection companies are also facing the same. Again, because the high demand is there in the carbon market, so various suppliers are there, and so the big bottleneck is being there again at the secretariat level of that carbon credit standards like CDM, VCS, Gold Standard, because they do not also have manpower to execute 500 or 1000 number of projects request at the time for the registration or verification or issuances. Again, the last point is related to the knowledge availability at the organization's level about the carbon market, when the project should be applied for the registration, when either it should be applied for the voluntary market or compliance market or the domestic market, which is upcoming. So again, at last, there is quite a clarity that we foresee various organizations are now highly or heavily investing into the voluntary carbon market, since there is not much conflict related to the Article 6 carbon credits or the double counting issue that may arise with the NDC and the Article 6. So various organizations are now looking for investing into the nature-based solution projects or technological-based projects. So there is a high traction in the market, but once the challenges related to the regulatory risks and the challenges related to the manpower availability or knowledge or the double counting issue, our carbon market will do flourish at its peak. As of now, it was in various studies, it was observed like around the voluntary carbon market business potential is around $1 to $2 billion, and which may increase to to $10 billion or $20 billion by next 3 to 5 years. Again, there was a new story that I have gone through that is related to the global carbon market value as of now. It's including the compliance markets, regional compliance market, which are going on there in the form of EU ETS, European Union Emission Trading Scheme, or Korea Emission Trading Scheme, or so in South Africa there is a mechanism. In America and Canada there are some mechanisms. So around $760 billion, which is 2.5 times as compared to the year 2020 market, it's a high soar in the carbon markets, and in near future we foresee that there will be high traction. So again, to meet the Paris Agreement era, the Paris Agreement targets of capping 1.5 degree centigrade temperature targets, so around 50 to 60 billion carbon credits would be the requirement in near future, depending over the net zero targets that had been adopted by the nations. How are they going to put force to meet that particular target? But if it's at the normal phase, then it would be 50 to 60 billion carbon credits requirement would be there in every year basis. So yeah, that was the last comment of mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manish. I think there's one question from the audience. We'll take other questions, but I think specifically for you that I think renewable projects is clear, and they've known about this and they've been active on this. But energy efficiency projects, any examples that you have that have been approved for carbon credits, and how can generating carbon credits help the financial viability, attractiveness, returns of energy efficiency projects? Any examples or perspectives from your side on that?
So coming over the second question related to the finance, carbon finance in the form of selling carbon credit. So it would be definitely, so first energy efficiency with the help of energy efficiency project, we will be saving the energy obviously in the form of thermal or electrical, generating or getting the project registered, then verified, and then sell the carbon credit. And depending over the crediting period, around crediting period, so in case of CDM mechanism, it was because now the projects are not getting registered under CDM mechanism. We are waiting to get the new regulations under Article 6.4. Apart from that, in VCA's gold standard DC, depending over the eligibility criteria of the project, the start date and the technology, we can apply for the registration, and we would be able to secure carbon finance in the form of selling carbon credit. The type of energy efficiency project that we can register, so any kind of energy efficiency project we can get it registered depending over the baseline. That means in the absence of our project activity, what would be the energy utilization scenario was there in the absence of the new project activity or the energy efficiency measure that we have taken. Apart from that, we also have to prove the additionality. So why we need carbon credit revenues, and if you would be able to prove either in the form of showing the financial barrier, or in the form of showing technological barrier or other kind of barrier, we would be able to get them registered. So like exothermic reaction projects are there, waste heat recovery projects are there, energy efficiency in boilers, energy efficiency in green building projects, thereafter energy efficient lighting projects. So any kind of measure if we'll do take which helps us to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, either carbon dioxide or methane or HFC, PFC, SF6, N2O and NF3. So any of these 7 greenhouse gases, if you are able to save directly or indirectly in the form of say energy efficiency, we will be able to apply for the benefits.
Thank you. I will then, I think, move to the next stage of the discussion. I think next 10 minutes, there's a couple of questions I would pose to the 3 panelists, and then again in maybe the reverse order this time, starting with you, Manish, and invite you to comment on that. And there are some questions from the audience that we would like to take on. I think there's one overall question around the policy framework and what I'd like to see as this market develops in India specifically. The role of government and policy. What would be an ideal framework? What might that look like for India? Manish, we can start with you.
So we are waiting, Indian project developers or the project owners are waiting for the migration of the CDM projects which are registered, and so migration would happen under Article 6.4. So we are waiting for the types of projects that would be allowed to get migrated, and the new types of projects that can be allowed to get registered. And again, there should not be any conflict in between the compliance market, domestic compliance market, or compliance market. It will be generated under Article 6.4 in reference to to the voluntary carbon market. So we as being project developer, or in many cases we are also for few projects we are the project owner. So we do anticipate that this clarity should come as soon as possible from Government of India, and in the form of formation of the national carbon market also, and the transition of projects and new projects. So these are the three aspects we need to consider, and that should be done very easily with the help of various stakeholder meetings. So that is the expectation we do have in reference to the new regulation related to carbon market. Apart from that, since India, we have experienced like the PAT, perform achievement trade mechanism is there, renewable certificate mechanism is there, electricity market is, so there should be the bilateral trading should also be allowed. So if you see the European Union emission trading scheme or other carbon markets or voluntary markets, there is less intervention related to the buying and selling of the credits. So that should not be too much regulated. It should be the market that should decide. Either they want exchange, either they want the over-the-counter markets, and what should be the prices. So over regulation should also be not there. So that is the expectation of ours.
Thank you.